Thanks, David. So you heard in Davis's comments and also in True's comments, the real need for flexibility and affordability of solutions. And so as someone who's worked in this field for 25 years, I thought I knew what it meant when people said we need a multilingual solution, but I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't. And let me show you why. If we can go to the next slide. Oh, next slide. In the first two buildings, residents spoke 13 different languages. And by the time we get to our second set of buildings, so we'll have a total of 4 up and running in Lighthouse, we'll have 15 different languages at play. So I want that to sink in for a minute, because this is a huge innovation opportunity. I'm not going to call it a challenge. I'm going to call it a call to action and an opportunity. So you see quite the list here, and you heard from True that she listed language as a reason people turned back devices, and that was part of her challenges slide. And I thought this quote from a Jefferson Manor resident was really compelling. She said, we're the only Hmong couple, and there is a language barrier that prevents us from socializing with others. It can get a bit lonely. And this comment is just about living in community, right? And then you add technology to it, and this becomes even greater challenge. And so we need to be careful as we're putting forward all these efforts to combat social isolation and loneliness, that we don't create more of that with the implementation of digital tools that don't contemplate the multilingual and multicultural needs of the people we're trying to serve. Next slide. So what we've really come, headlong into in the Lighthouse Project is that we need linguistically appropriate multilingual applications and culturally sensitive program designs in order to be successful. And I love, I don't love this statistic, but I thought it was really compelling. This is in a report done by Oates Technology Services, a recent report, and said foreign-born older adults age 62 plus and over are 2.3 times likely to be offline. And if you let's just stop for a minute and think about how important of an issue being online is in this world today. And just if you look at the pandemic and you look at the very basic fundamental that for older adults to get their COVID vaccine, it had to be done online. So much of the world's business today and life is supported by digital experience and access to digital tools. And this is a super critical issue. And doing it in ways that we can engage the population living in affordable housing is critically important to think deeply about. And you can't just think about the devices and the tools. As you heard from True and Davis, we absolutely need to think deeply about how we're going to get the resources to help people really, truly use technology. And that's not only the training and adoption support, but that's the ongoing technical support that we all know we need. And then you heard, I think True really touched on this very well. The human and financial resource constraints in affordable housing are very real. There's generally very small teams of staff supporting a very large number of residents. They have very important mission critical activities to do. So there's a big question about where this digital support really fits. So next slide. In addition, one of the things that probably makes sense, I've actually seen in the Q&A some comments about this already, getting the infrastructure in affordable housing to support digital adoption is its own challenge. So low-income communities and affordable housing buildings tend to be very old. There are some beautiful newer ones or some recently redeveloped ones that maybe are in a little bit better shape. But in terms of having the wiring pathways, the electrical, and the ability to just distribute Wi-Fi in the building, it's a huge challenge and it can be very expensive. And then there's also the issue in many of these old cinder block buildings, even if you get Wi-Fi in there, the signal can easily be blocked. So part of what Lighthouse is setting out to do, and I saw my friend Ty from CDW is in the participant list, we're fortunate to be collaborating with great minds from across the country to really think deeply about how can we put together a toolkit and best practices to help buildings come online and bring affordable broadband, high-speed broadband to residents in their home. And the one thing we have learned, and I think a question that's in many people's mind is, can you just do it cellular? Is that enough? Or do you really need broadband in the home? And the answer that we've really learned is that you're going to need both ultimately, but in the home, you really need the Wi-Fi based broadband. What we heard in the empathy survey that I thought was really important is that people tend to feel very safe and secure in their home in affordable housing. They were most worried about falls, I think, as Davis mentioned, but also their security needs increased when they left the building. So that's a place where cellular is going to be important. But the focus of this project right now is tackling the really tough question of how do we bring high-speed broadband into affordable housing buildings. So one of the things we're working on is a toolkit that will kind of tell the story of some of the challenges we've uncovered and things we're learning about how to do this best. I saw a question about, are we going to advocate with the ISPs to help bring attention to the need for affordable broadband? The answer is yes. And fortunately, as this presentation goes on, you're going to hear there's a lot going on in the nation right now about tackling the tough challenge of affordable broadband. Next slide. So achieving flexibility and affordability, I like to think of it as a three-legged stool. If you can hit next. Get my stool up here. Okay, here's my stool, right? The whole idea of the three-legged stool is that you have to have all three legs there in place or the stool tips over, right? And so when we started this project, we were really focused on needing to get affordable Wi-Fi and internet access in affordable housing, affordable devices. As you heard from Davis, we've played with a lot of different devices trying to find the perfect device that meets all the needs, that meets all the multilingual requirements, and we're still on that journey. And then we're doing a lot of deep thinking in Lighthouse about how we can get in language training and support in different modalities. Can it be peer-to-peer? What role can staff play? What role can an outside organization play? So we're looking at it from a lot of different perspectives, trying to create models and best practices that we can share with everyone that would help us scale this up, because we recognize there's no one solution that's going to just be the silver bullet for every affordable housing community. And so we're trying to build those best practices. But here was the big aha for us. We're fortunate in Lighthouse to have another partner called Decimal Health that did a huge technology scan based on all the findings of the empathy research and the affordability requirements. So they took that list of languages, they took the affordability need, they took our focus on health and well-being and connection and looked at tools that could potentially meet our needs. And what we found out was the three-legged stool doesn't have a seat. We're missing, if you hit next, the in-language digital apps and content that would cross all of these languages of the people we're supporting. So this is a huge innovation white space that we're going to continue to focus our time and energy on. And what you heard, like with the Velara Rapid Deployment Project, is we're testing trade-offs. Can graphical user interface work so that people can do video calls even if it's not in their language? How can we get it in their language in the meantime? Like we're really having to try out multiple approaches and we're looking for that sweet spot where it creates the most adoption in an imperfect world, while at the same time we're advocating and sharing with anyone we can. This is a huge opportunity to digitally enable tools with the right language. And so there's a common platform. So from a health and wellness perspective, when we're reaching out to populations of people, we're doing it in multilingual and multiculturally appropriate ways, but it's a common platform where we're getting valid data back that helps us support the health and well-being of the people we serve. So a lot more to come in this area, and this is one where we're really putting out the rallying cry to anyone who will listen to join us in this effort to recruit the great minds of the world into this huge innovation white space, because it will be incredibly impactful. Next slide. And with that, I'll turn it back to David.